Okay, in this video we're going to have a look at the tracking options for focus on the Panasonic GH6, and this works the same on a lot of the Lumix cameras. So if you've got an S series camera or a G or GH series camera, you'll probably be able to follow along with most of this. So what we're going to do is just jump into the camera, and we're going to jump into our focus menu. So on this camera it's the menu up here, and then you can see we've got our focus options. I'm not going to cover those in this video because we've done that in another video, so I'll link that above if you don't know what any of the focus options are. But essentially what you'll find is that in some of the modes you get some of the focus options, and in other modes they're sort of not there. So at the moment I'm in the video mode, so if we switched into one of the photography modes and then we jump into single focus, you'll find that all of the focus modes are available. And also we've got this option down here for AF detection. So if we press that on, you can see that because we're using human and animal detection, there's a different icon for each one. You've got like I think for human there's a person, for eye tracking there's an eye, and for human and animal there's an animal icon. And you can see next to each one what they work for, and essentially they all work for everything except pinpoint focus, and there's a reason for that. And I've done another video on pinpoint focus, so I'll link that up in the corner. But essentially everything except pinpoint focus supports the AF detection modes, and it's as simple really as just going through and just toggling that on. So the other thing we will need to do is to toggle it on in the settings. So what we're going to do, because obviously we're indoors and we don't really have people here, so I'm just going to use this stock image on a piece of paper, and we're just going to tape it to the screen. And it's just a stock image from Pexels. It's from Foxels. I'll put a link in there. It's a free to use image, but I'll put credit in for the image. And then essentially if we jump into the camera, you just need to make sure that if you go into menu, video camera, and then the focus menu, which is the fourth one down, under AF detection settings, you want that switched on. So you can see we're already starting to pick up kind of borders around things. Maybe no, actually that doesn't look too bad. Yeah, you can see borders around things, but if we come in and we switch that off, that sort of just disappears. But strangely, in the focus menus we can still switch this on and off. It switches itself on if you switch it on from the focus menu. So it's a bit of a strange option. Like you can switch it off from here, and then you can come back, and as you switch it on from here, it actually switches that on in this menu as well. So you don't have to worry too much about that one. It's just an option that is available in both menus essentially. And then under detecting subject, we've got three options in here. So we've got the top one, human. So human essentially detects human faces, eyes and bodies, and if it can't detect somebody's eyes or face, it switches back to the body. So what makes that quite good is that if somebody covers their face with their hand or an object, or maybe they turn around, it will just revert back to the body of that person. So rather than just completely losing focus and going off somewhere else in the frame, it will actually do a fairly sensible just focus onto the person, and it sort of retains that lock, which is quite good. And you can have up to 3 human subjects in one frame at a time that can be detectable. And the next one, we've got face and eye. And this one only detects faces and eyes. So if you want, the bodies to, make sure to go for that one. And this one actually you can detect up to 15 different faces with it. So it's a bit of a different option, but there's different sort of use cases for each one. And then the last one is human and animal. So you get everything that you get in the first one, plus you get animal detection as well. So for me, I generally go for this one because this sort of gives you everything really, and it does work a bit. I've had it, the animal detection I've had working on cats, and when I've been to the zoo, we it's picked up different types of animals and things, so it does work pretty well. You can pick up different stuff with it. So for me, that's kind of my default, but you might have different ones that you want to use. And then that's technically it. So we jump back out, and then if we jump into our focus mode again, what I'm going to do is jump into full area, and the reason for that is that what that will do is pick up everybody that's in the frame. So you can see here what's happening is, it's probably slightly hard to see on there, but what's happening is once we're in focus, so it's picking up her face, his face, and then it's sort of shifting a little bit on some of these. So you can see when it can't see the face, it's shifting from the face to the body. So the box around them is the body, and then when it can see the face, it does go onto it. And what I can actually do is I could click on to say on this person, and then he is the priority face that is locked onto. It was her before because it's got the yellow box, and I could click onto them and say they're the priority, and you can see it switching from their body to their face. And the other thing you should be able to see, if we switch back onto that, the other thing actually that's much more useful than tapping is that you see it's got the arrows on here, left and right. You can actually use the joystick and toggle left and right between the subjects, and that's quite useful. If you go right and there's no subject on this side, it will flick back onto the person on the far side, so it sort of does like a loop around. So yeah, you can track through with that, and that's really useful. So I use that quite often. It's a bit fiddly sometimes clicking on the screen. And what you'll find is if we go onto this one and focus, so you can see it's actually doing the eye tracking as well. And the way you can see that is there's a crosshair within this yellow box, and only the focus one will be doing the eye tracking. You can't decide what eye you want it to track on. Essentially, the camera does that for you. You just focus, and then it will, when it can pick up an eye, it will do it. Probably not the easiest one actually to be doing eye tracking on. That one's much better. And you can see it just picks up essentially what the closest eye is to the camera. It will lock onto it. And although people say a lot of bad things about the GH6 focus and DFD in general, to be honest, the eye autofocus on this is really good. It works. I've had it working in fairly low light situations. It works really well on people with glasses. They can be moving about, and it really does a good job. So I've got no issues with it, to be honest. I think it's really good. So it's it's a decent mode to use, the IAF, and essentially, like I say, you can kind of toggle through and pick different people in the frame, and that largely is working because we have the full area on. So if we sort of come back, and then we come back into these modes, like I say, I'm not going to go through them all and kind of explain them, but if we go onto one area, for example, our one area point is there, so whoever is within that frame will be the one who's focused on. So say if that's the focus area points there, it's going to pick them up as the person. If the area points over there, it's going to pick up the guy on the left. If the focus points up there, it's nobody, because nobody's quite in the frame there. Whereas if I bring it down just a bit and she's on the edge, you can see now it's focused on her. Or if we come across to this guy, now it's him. It's kind of it's just whoever is within that frame. So, and it works the same for the other ones. So if you were to use, say, zone or something like that, it just picks out one of the main people in that zone. You can kind of you can kind of see that it's just picking that person out, and you can move the zone around to decide who you want in there. The full area can be really good if you've got a group of people and they're walking amongst each other sort of within the frame. Obviously it's going to follow that one person you want, but then maybe you could switch it onto somebody else if they start saying a line and somebody else walks off or they're out of shot or something like that. So it just really depends. You've got a few different options of modes to go through, but generally anything outside of full AF, you really just focus in on one person. So it's it just kind of works that way. And then once they're out of the frame, the whatever the box is on, essentially that's what the focus will be on. So say for example, you've got somebody doing a talk at a podium. What I generally do is I'll put the focus point on the podium itself, so you've usually got the messaging of whatever the event is, and then that will be enough. If I've got zone on, it's enough to capture the person, and then when the person leaves, the focus just locks onto the podium, which is more or less where the person is, like maybe a little bit in front of them. So that's quite a good way to do it. The focus doesn't just start going crazy looking for a person that's not there. They're just sort of out of that zone, and then it sort of just defaults back to that area. So that's quite useful. And then the next thing worth mentioning really is the just if we jump into the Q menu. Actually, sorry, what I'll do is I'll jump into the movie menu, and then the next thing that is worth mentioning. Sorry, let me drop that down a bit because that's a bit overexposed, so it's probably hard to see. If I jump into the Q menu and then for video, so we're at 50 frames there, everything works fine. If we jump up beyond that, so I'm in PAL, so you might be on 60 frames, that will still work fine. But once you jump up to 100 or 120 in NTSC, you'll find now that it's all just gone, so you've lost the detection settings now, and you can see the menu's gone as well for it. And it's not because it's not because we've got it switched off, it's because it's actually disabled now. So VFR, obviously manual focus, and anything in this it just switches off, so we kind of can't do it anymore. So just be aware that anything over say 50 or 60 frames, that's essentially just, it's not going to have those sort of tracking options anymore. I've tried to make this kind of an overview and not too in depth, so it's easy enough to follow. But yeah, hopefully that's helped. If it has, give the video a like. If you've got any questions, obviously leave them in the comments. If you want to see more content about the Panasonic GH6, then check out the playlist on this channel, and please subscribe.